is one thing. Hip is one thing, but like a ball. If you're losing hair, to what point you can consider it, you balded. So this is something for me is looking at there is a change, there is a moment of change from one state to another state. While in Chinese, they also have this type of reflections or some kind of this phenomena. We will see this is called one is the Qiqi. Qiqi, you see, it's a very important utensils. But the utensils, and if you add a little bit of water, and then same thing as you add less water, too much water or too little water, and make it a flip. So this is also condition human actions add on to certain point, and the nature of reality somewhat going to change. Now, in Confucius and the Taoists, both somewhat endorse and practice this type of, we will see, have this kind of reminders, especially Confucianism, and they call the 座右铭. That's why I call the maximum of Qiqi, because you stayed in the right hand and constantly be reminded, oh, be make sure there is some sort of moderations to all things concerned. So in Gugong, you also can see the Qiqi. So there is many things being contributed to this phenomena. Okay, so if we are, why I'm not able to move? Okay, what is happening? Okay, so what is so then we want to deep into the issues in this kind of two. We want to see the two phenomena. So in the hip paradox, the hip situations, they basically is thinking about the vagueness. And the point is trying to figure out where these things become that. Okay. And then so the center is threshold, borders, transactions. So basically Greeks thinking this is specific point where sand become a head. But we cannot figure this out, then that there is this become paradox. So basically it's a discomfort with the boundaries, lack of positions. Of course, right now, you have a fuzzy logic, right? That's become very important scientific discussions, but it's still issues for Greek's mind, for the logic of the mind. Then what will be the tipping vessel then? So basically for tipping vessel, the outline and ontological view about the thinking about the world is not made of things, but it's a tendency. They do not care about what moment this Qiqi will flip, but whether they care about accumulative work will lead to a disastrous results. So basically think about the tendencies. So how the tendency lean shift. So what a specific point that's really does not into Chinese mind. So boundaries are fluid. Identity is penetrating. So basically, we can see there is Chinese thinking about there is a process of gradual changes. We're thinking about the balance is relational. And then tip point is between continuity and the collapse. Another word, we were thinking about for this is there is no paradox for Chinese in Chinese mind, because the one grade is not a hip yet, but it's toward the hip. Someday it's going to be hip. So it's about the hipness. So this we can see 道德经, right? 道德经 talk about, oh, you work so much, then this whole things will be accumulating. You have 9 levels of course, the building something high, and because your individually works. So for hip, the San in Taoist mind, in 道德经 the mind at least, is a function of relational context. So in this kind of thing, being a hip for Chinese idea is not a binary. It's not here. This point is a San. This point is the it's a hip. It's a hill. But for Chinese, it's just this is a continuity. It's a constancy. And well, then I'm called this field of proximity. So that another word, we look at the world, transformations is emerged phenomena. It's not one point happened. And so focus on accumulative effort. Yet we do not know Chinese, there is a word called 物极则反, or 物极必反. This is we think about in English. It's really interesting translation, but use more correct scientific term we'll see called self-organized criticality. It's a criticality because in this point on, things change the nature. Of course, we're thinking about this term of 反. 反, you see, is non-linear movement, right? It's an infinite, multidimensional spiral a movement. So the another word to think about the word or this ideas is regression towards the means. The Chinese is thinking about the tipping vessel. It's about your tendency cumulative, and then going to have this some sort of, there is a paradoxical nature of relationality, but it's not really a paradox. So I think there is a differences we see. So these things if we look at this, so in Chinese mind we're thinking about is we looking at the skill, okay, and looking at the different skill in the time and the space. This is another things is to support this idea. So let's look at Sorites paradox. It's paradoxical because it is in the logic of discrete categories. There is a categories, there is a boundaries. But if we read the Zhuangzi, we think about the born, death, anything born the same time is things dying, right? At the same point. And then, of course, change as gradually, not abrupted, and it's a flowing. So in this kind of things, maybe then, of course, we look at the Zhuangzi. So what one conforms is what another denies. What one denies is what others affirms. You can see clearly there is no clearly cut off line if you use these very simple words to see it. Then I can make a philosophical claim. I will see, well, the paradox of Sorites become the Tao of proximity. So then there is a question, wanted to do a little bit more to thinking about Well, another thing we can thinking about this paradox. And in order to solve this paradox, actually you not really solve it, but rather to shift to a different mode of thinking. In other words, identity of a hip is not intrinsic to a certain numbers of grains, right? So, but rather emerged from a context of use, perception, and interaction. And also, there is no need to identify the precise grain that create hip, because hip is not discrete entity, but a field of becoming. So here there's a 2 point, right? To shifting, we can think about 2 points. 1 point, there is no precise point to that threshold, that point exists. Another point is we're thinking about this sand hills as well. It's just interconnected. It's just a relationality. It's a transition. So it's accumulation and emergence. So what so then question is not about solving this paradox also, but perhaps we can ask another question is how is move toward happiness. In other words, if it is thinking about this is proximity, then we need to talk about what is this field of Tao of proximity? What is this flowing epistemology? So what is the content of it, right? So push up this to another level, I will see this another level of proximity. Basically, broadly speaking, I just thinking, okay, it's a resonance over position, emergence over exclusion, proximity over positions. So in other words, proximity is not a particular time, temporal, spatial point. Okay, it is a tendency. And then we do need thinking about a specifically. So question is, what is proximity? Well, in the Latin, proximity is nearness, closeness, and in classic Latin also means physical closeness, social closeness. But also you can see in Christian theology, love your neighbor. So it's the idea we are close, not simply just spatial, but also emotionally and spiritually. There is some sort of space we shared together. So basically, it's a space we shared together. There is no precise words for proximity, a translation. But we could see the jing, closeness, qing, near, close. That's all. That these things are proximity is a human experience. So then, lacking precise Chinese translation and a complicated issue. But for me, I found out that perhaps I can use 4 Taoist terms to explain this or to establish this idea of flowing or subtle proximity, which is Rou, its tong, and yin and shi. So because Rou, people probably know I did some work on it. Basically, I think about the Rou is we talk about is shared space. What is a tong? Tong literally mean is a 2 point become connected. So I was thinking about the Rou create a space. Tong actually show us how to connect to each other. And the yin, of course, is proximate force because things change gradually, and then to a certain point, yin and become yang, just day and night. At a certain point, as day accumulating and the night will come, vice versa. So this is also another idea I will add on is shi, is emergent of configuration. So this is one of the things I want to see is proximity is not a spatial, but a relational field. Okay, so it's and this relational field is a living field, and it's there is a two side to this. Two side. One is closeness. Of course, we want closeness, especially. I think why I'm using proximity this term to describe this phenomena, especially I think in this technology connected world, seems it's really important to make sense out of it, because today technology make us getting so close, right? Very close, because I will talk about how the world just in palm at your palm your hand, everything you have easy access. But yet, there is a need to make a distance. Is any way we think about the distance plays a role in this connectivity. So, and here I'm again, how rho provide a texture of nearness, and the tone is adjustment, and the yin, and talk about the hidden resonance and the space and the shi. Of course, I probably shouldn't talk about too much about this yin things. Most of us already heard, see, it's a Taoist, a Dao De Jing particular concept, right? So rho is a pliant, it's a soft, prevent from proximity become rigid, and of course proximity. Things, okay, one of the things think about the proximity is a space. Yes, what happened in the space? Space, first of all, require create a space. Through the yielding and adjusting, we're making space. And so if we don't have this, without the rho, the closeness become intrusion, conflict, right? And or distance into this kind of cold connections. So we do want to thinking about this rho and create this rho approach the space where we has a different type of closeness. Now we're thinking about the tone. Tone you do need, although you're close, but if there is no connectivity, and then there is no resonance, physical space, it does not create closeness because lacking of resonance. I think I talked to somebody talk about proximity, and then he used the example, said, hey, I'm very close to my cat at this moment, but I'm more close to my children far away. I thought that's kind of interesting way to thinking about, why within the closeness, you also need this resonance, okay? Another concept, the yin, and I know I already talked much about the yin as a proximate force. This is, I want to see, also in a Chinese mentality, in this Qiqi idea, do not looking the turning point, right? Do not get particular threshold, but there is a moment of change. So then we were thinking about this hidden momentum that is yin. So in other words, yin is a silent turning point. It's a hidden transformation from one stage to another. It's a generative and accumulative. And in these things we do, I also feel like I talk so yin yang. It's so much this ideas. So I just maybe very quickly go through it. So because with this yin force, we really giving this proximity a more a depth. So in other words, through shaping this kind of closeness, and then with awareness, things could be changed. There is we thinking about, the yin is bring up the from one stage, from one a condition into another condition. Then there is many examples to can illustrate this kind of idea, but I'm just going to go on. So I do think the shi is interesting things about something we can thinking about it, because shi, being familiar with the Chinese philosophy or Chinese even society, we were thinking about this momentum, right? So this momentum is a soft power, and it's the condition you create, it's the influence you created, then things can only go one way, and then only one way to go. So sometimes we do thinking about the shi is the not, it's not just one individual choice. We were thinking about its situational potential. This should be part of proximity as well. Your physical close, but that closeness should thinking about this environment, how environment also affect this closeness. This closeness could bring the distance, and the same going to breaking off, interrupt it. So this shi concept, we was rooms seating, why Chinese so much a focus on the seating conditions, or classroom atmosphere, right? And some sort of social status of someone's talking. So whatever this we can see and create its condition, isn't make us near toward something or make us broken through it. So we do think shi power is not just about being close, but also about knowing when to draw close and when to set back. And that's Dao De Jing Xing. So this is within this four concept. I'm kind of want to thinking about this is some sort of not more deeper. So I called this kind of subtle proximity. This subtle proximity is if we are aware this condition, then we might want to thinking about how there is dynamics, there is complicities, there is even problems to part of we are being so close, right? So the nearness distance emergence adjust, but yet need some sort a understanding. So if this is some sort of ideas, I presented this, but of course facing some critiques and challenges. So I will do very quick. So what is the problems proximity might bring? One, too vague, right? Overlapping categories. What are you talking about? Right? Set through to lacking normative criteria. Ethical concern. Do you want to be close or do you want to be a distant? And maybe will be undermine agency, accountability, maybe risky the relativism, And also one of the things really think about is especially when we apply to social conditions, we're looking with asymmetry, power, mostly also ambiguity between cultural specificity and the universality. This is all very vague challenges. I do see there is a problem with proximity, but what a possibly can do, I will quickly thinking about this. So vagueness is not a flaw, but a feature. Sometimes vague, right? Most Chinese love to do this vagueness talking, where asking you, oh yeah, how is it? Oh, 还可以. Oh, 差不多. They all give you this vagueness answers. So then instead of demanding this clear boundaries, maybe invite us to move skillfully in distinctions. So another word, this good proximity is not imposed. It's not about external rules, but lived sense through tone openness, resonance. So another word, you just have to figure out, right? This is what all we see Chinese a sense of, especially our sense of a human agency. It's responsiveness, and it's kind of like a relational accountability. So in other words, power as figurations, and it's a scope of a situation. So it's just like how things are titled. And so one moving within power without being crushed. Okay, water can be example. Subtle proximity is about the flow. Too much or too little will be a little disruptive. And it's really interesting. One of the things, the moonlight, right, does not collapse distance, but yet it does not enforce separations. And I do think, the moonlight is another very interesting concept that we can think about. So in here, we want to think about, because I'm responding to this idea of lacking of a normative value, that maybe we can see, because it's so blurred, right? Everything. So maybe we think about the value as a position, but not as a disposition, not as a fixed position. So you're always flowing. Okay, so I like to end this talk with a example in the form from Zhuangzi. This dangerous prince. Okay, chapter 2, right? Story from Zhuangzi talk about the Yan He is asked with tutoring the being teacher of a crown prince, and but the crown prince, this crowned prince is a dangerous person. It's dangerous bad. So here's the problem. If we see use Western term is a dilemma. So here's the problem. If I find no way contain him, he will then endanger my state. But if I do trying to contain him, he will endanger my life. So basically, it is the problem. So how do you solve problems? Zhuangzi, or at least the text did not say follow this rule A or follow rule B to solve it. Rather, give you 3 examples. One example is a Mattis. You're trying to blocking the card, admirable but fertile. Think about taming the tiger, managing their anger, and carefully, neither giving too much nor too little, lest the tiger turn against them. The third is a training horse. So noise. So you look in these examples, right? There is no particular rules or proclaimed, we say proclaimed statement, principle you should follow, but rather you have to access the situation and to figure out one to close, one to have a distance, and one to work through this condition and the influence. We see the shi. So I think this is good example to thinking about how flowing proximity in action. So this is one thing perhaps from ontological point of view, we're thinking about the proximity, we think about the constant and the change, right? We're thinking about, we're aware of hidden the patterns of the living world, but we also lingering and then we see the abounding conditions. And we not collapsing the distance, but yet reinforce separations between nearness and distance. But between nearness and the distance, I do think, particularly in Chinese culture, maybe we need more distance. And in today's world, maybe we need more at distance. So this is something I think to thinking about, to able to give us some conceptual, I probably will say some conceptual understanding the issues and have some reflection. So I'm really eager to hear your criticism and ideas and what. So I have a question for all the audience here: is this work? Does this work? Is that working? What do you think? Right? We take this as experimental thought. This is a thought experiment. So here we go. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. And
Thank you, Robin. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was awesome.
we need a question.
Very interesting talk. Yes. So we open now to the Q&As. So you could either raise hands or drop the question in the chat. Better just,
I see
take the
Ben.
lead, open your webcam.
Ben and Rory.
No, that's just the clapping reaction.
Oh, sorry.
The clapping. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but you already
Another
have a
hand.
microphone. Come on, say something.
No, please.
Hey, this is a free exchange, right?
Yes, exactly.
Platform.
Exactly.
Everything goes.
I
So
was
okay.
also just clapping, but maybe I could ask a question.
Yes, great. Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in this this idea of shi, or this kind of disposition. I can't remember exactly how you translated it, right? This shi in the Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching.
Right.
And